direct conversations with anybody in your workplace. So this is today's agenda. First, we're going to look at the challenges of direct conversations, some of the things that keep us from having them, and some of the reasons that we avoid them. Next, we're going to look at, okay, what is straight talk? What is this six-step, robust six-step model that Proactive is going to introduce on how to have these direct conversations? We'll give you plenty of examples and an opportunity to see it unfold in a real-life situation. We're also going to look at what to do if someone attempts to hijack this conversation. And then lastly, of course, we're going to look at how to receive a straight talk. Receiving a straight talk professionally and respectfully is a good way of encouraging a culture of this kind of conversation when we're able to receive feedback well. Should you have any questions throughout, please type them into the chat box, and if we are unable to get to them, there's a question and answer period at the end.
And of course, please use the chat function to ask your questions as we go. Alternatively, I can keep the questions until the end of the webinar or interject if there's a natural place to ask Ashley.
Super. Thanks, Pat. So Pat's going to be moderating for us, and we'll be sure to get to your questions at the end, if not sooner. So let's begin. The simple reality of being at work is that people will say and do things that annoy us, that tick us off. And chances are we're probably likely to do the same to them at some point in time. So there's almost an infinite range of behaviors that people can say or do that leave us thinking that this isn't a respectful workplace, or that maybe this is an overwhelmingly stressful place to be, or even that it's impossible to work effectively or efficiently here. So some of the examples that we hear from many of the workplaces that we've gone into is people talk about how others gossip, how they ridicule people, or there are some people that just like to argue for argument's sake. Some other examples would be someone's excluding us from conversations, from group activities. Maybe someone's withholding information that we need to get our job done, or they're just being displaying that chronic pessimism and chronic negativity. Other behaviors that get in the way of us working are, being yelled at, being badmouthed, hearing foul language. So there's all types of behaviors that we might want to have conversations about. And the problem is, if we get sucked into this cycle of bad behavior, it's likely for us to respond equally badly, which just sort of perpetuates that bad behavior. Our bodies have this physiological reaction when someone says or does something that we don't like. It's kind of like being kicked in the shins. It's different for different people. For some of us, our heart rate increases or our breathing rate increases. Maybe our palms get clammy. Whatever it is, we have a threat response to people's bad behavior. And sometimes unconsciously, we tend to respond badly in kind, just perpetuating that cycle of bad behavior. One of those unhelpful reactive responses is to try to ignore that person or try to ignore that behavior. Or at least we think we're ignoring it, but we're actually paying a lot of indirect attention to it. We're avoiding walking by that person's desk. Maybe we're minimizing our negative reactions, what was said or done. Or perhaps we're just repressing our own fear and frustration at the situation. Another unhelpful response we could fall into is just responding in kind. That sort of slapping back when we say with our words or tone of voice, look, I didn't like that, don't do it again. We may try to make the other person feel badly or speak in a way that vaguely threatens that no matter what they do to us, we can give it back to them just as badly. And then the third reactive response to behavior that we don't like is to pass off the problem to somebody else. Sometimes we look to one individual, maybe a friend of the person who's ticked us off, to exert their influence in our favor. Or perhaps we look to the group in a behavior like harmful gossip to informally punish that person, to ostracize them. Or perhaps we're passing off this problem to a superior to deal with, to exercise their formal authority to punish that person.